and good morning to you. Let me preface is stupid because you've already seen stuff. So let me tell you that the Mesa Boogie Flux Drive is by far one of the wow. Because if you know what I mean, we all strive to get that sound we imagine, the sound that when we were teenagers made us giggle, the stuff that gives us the emotion when we play or hear it that, you know, just makes us happy, endorphins in the brain. The Flux Drive gives you the endorphins in the brain when you push it a tiny bit. So let me give you the recipe for lead sound nirvana when it comes to my lead sound, the sound that I like. Because a lot of people say, well, I like your demos, but it's not my kind of sound. Well, still keep watching because it's cool. Also, Daddario. I have to say that sometimes, otherwise I don't have new strings. Actually, it's not true. They approached me, and because they've been a fan of the channel. Nothing can be better than that. A company is saying, hey, we like what you do, want to work with us? And I'm like, I've been playing D'Addario for 25 years, so nothing's really gonna change. So send me shit. Anyway, D'Addario. I love doing that. Here's the recipe, and here comes the guy from D'Addario saying he didn't know that the tone burst changes his guitar into a TV. What is he talking about? What in the world? I don't know what he's talking about. Apparently over at D'Addario, they're smoking stuff. Where did my remote control thingy go? Here. So, here's the recipe for lead sound Nirvana. Tape echo. Oh man, I had this set up so nicely. Eighth note, dotted eighth, dotted eighth. Thank you. Back to the lead sound Nirvana, which is you take the Flux Drive or the Flux 5, highly recommended, and you push it with a Tube Screamer type pedal. Could be the Grid Slammer, which right now I don't have on the board. I've got the Voyager from Walrus Audio, but technically you can tape any Tube Screamer type pedal, which kicks it just the tiniest bit higher in gain, which is where I wanted to go, and focuses the mids just a tiny bit more, and that, with a nice tape delay and a good clean sound, that's the shit. And we're gonna show you that. We? Who's we? I don't know. Me and D'Addario. Of course, we're looking at the Flux Drive and the Flux 5 in one because it's kind of, the same pedal just on steroids. And the Flux 5 can do so many freaking awesome things. The setup, I'm going into, I don't know, I think it's the Voyager from Walrus Audio and then into the Flux 5 and then the Flux Drive. So the Voyager just to kick it. Of course, I could use a Grid Slimmer, but it's not set up and I'm not changing my setup right now. That's going into the La Boga Alligator 50, which is right there. Let me show you. Wait. That is that amp right there, which has a very nice clean sound. And I'm not using the Mesa Boogie Mark 525 for the reason that if these are getting you closer to a Mesa sound, of course, if I use a Mesa amp, you're going to say, well, obviously it sounds like a Mesa because it's a Mesa. So we're going not Mesa amp to show you how Mesa-ish they can make a good tube amp. And when we talk about good tube amp, that thing is about $1,200. So it's not a mega super boutique amp in any way, just a good amp with a good clean sound. And we're testing it, of course, with the Hartung Embrace Wantage 57. Some people have said, well, that guitar must be $1 million. It clocks in at probably, I don't know actually, probably a little bit over $5,000. That's where these Embraces are. And they are more than worth it. That's all I can say to that. So it's a good guitar, obviously. In the effects loop, I've got an Eventide H9, simply for the reason because it's over there, and I didn't want to run cables, so I can actually have my iPad and turn it on and off, and it's on a very nice tape delay for leadsy sounds. So here's my clean sound. Very, very nice clean sound. And we're gonna kick in, we're gonna start with the Flux Drive, then see if the Flux 5 can do the Flux Drive sound and what else it can do. We're running. Super mega low gain, that's not its strong suit, side, whatever. Actually, whoa, why not? That's neat. That is actually very neat. I take back what I just said. It does what is Mesa typical. It does dense, woolly, round distortion. Overdrive. Let's call it overdrive. It is a blast to play this thing as a rhythm pedal. It really is. The track that you heard in the beginning, that was so much fun. It's not a metal pedal. It isn't. It's just great. That's full gain. And the EQ. Of Mesa pedals that you get that are supposed to give you the Mesa sound from some other company, they do this. And they think it's Mesa. Well, it can be if you crank it up all the way, but it's not. It's most of them are always too much. This isn't. This can be if you want to do beat. See, rolling the high end off here is very nice. It can be bitey if you want it to be. So now let me show you the trick, which is most of you have an SD1, a Tube Screamer, maybe a Mesa Grid Slammer, maybe a Maxon Ibanez Voyager from Walrus Audio or whoever. Now take that, set it to pretty much anything, it doesn't really matter, and kick the Flux drive with it. You get the Forican point. For me, that is defined, that is everything you want from a lead sound. This thing It's pretty awesome. So now we're gonna see, we set it up kind of centered here. Let me explain the Flux 5. It's kind of complicated. First, some coffee. The Flux 5 has an EQ. Let's ignore that for now. I'm going to set that all dead center here. So, you have the gain. And you have a bypass. Now it lights up orange. Which means we're in the low setting. When you switch the left foot switch, you have a higher setting that you can switch between. Light changes to red, and this little red light here lights up, which means the volume can be set by this high trim level. So you have a level and a high trim, which means you could set a solo volume if you wanted to. Then there are these switches. Right now in the off position, meaning the EQ is going to be off for low and high settings. If I do low EQ on, the EQ will only be active in the low setting. What you could do is have it off in the low setting, so you're getting a nice kind of a rhythm sound. Kick in the high setting where the EQ is on, boost the mids, and there's your solo. Solo volume, solo EQ. So this is definitely a 2-channel pedal, which would make any 1-channel amp 2 plus 1, you get the point, 3 channels. Also, the high setting seems to have more gain, which makes sense because it's a high setting. So let's, in the middle here, compare if I have bass and treble in the... They're notched, by the way, so you know exactly where they're in the flat position, which is great. Which is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to set them up exactly the same, and we're going to see how they compare. I'm thinking that gain-wise, the Flux Drive is maybe centered in the middle between the low and high setting, but we're going to find out. That's exactly what it is. Gain-wise, the low setting on the Flux 5 is a little bit less than what the Flux Drive gives you, but the high setting is a little bit more. Again. So, let's look at a lot of other stuff on that thing. Obviously, with the EQ and the gain, you can do what we've just seen with the Flux Drive, so we're not going to repeat that. Let's see how high the gain will go. So what I want to know is, can we get that nirvana of the Flux Drive with the Tube Screamer with the Flux 5? Let's see if we can narrow in on that sound, maybe using the EQ section. I don't know what's wrong with me. Okay, remember that. I'm gonna turn the EQ on the high, because that's where we are, and just boost the mids a tiny little bit and take the low end out a tiny little bit. So back we are to the Flux drive with a tube screamer pushing it, and I'm switching only to the Flux 5, which is set up with the EQ to give me that sound. That is freaking amazing. I'm gonna demonstrate some stuff with the EQ. Let's do that. Just gonna play a rhythm in the looper and then fiddle around with stuff, because that Mesa 5-band EQ, graphic 5-band EQ, is just insane. You can mold your sound in any way you want. I'm gonna demonstrate. Yeah, as I said, the possibilities are literally endless. Absolutely stunning. Obviously, I could show a million things with that lead sound. I mean, you can bend your sound any way you want. Let's go and, let's go. I'm keeping the pedals up there because that's, nice and you can see what I'm talking about. So my 2 cents, very easy. Flux Drive, freaking awesome. Not a cheap pedal, but it has a very unique character. I would say more unique than the Grid Slammer, which is a great tube screamer pedal, but it's a tube screamer. And there are other options. I couldn't really tell you what other options you have for the Flux Drive other than getting a Flux 5. Which is seriously what I would recommend. If space isn't an issue and the extra, I don't know, 100 or 100 whatever quid, bucks, Kohle, euro, dollar, pound, it gives you the Flux Drive, just more of it in terms of gain. The EQ is insane. It gives you an extra channel for your amp in terms of another volume boost. You can, since the EQ is selectable for the low or high gain settings, this thing is just freaking killer. You could hear some of those nasally kind of open wah sounds. Go ahead and build yourself a Mark Tremonti sound because he likes these really nasally, very spiky mid sounds. You can do that only in the high setting. Use the low setting for your rhythm. You saw that with the extra gain and the little bit of building with the EQ, you could get the Flux Drive sound with the Tube Screamer. The options are amazing. This is a very, very well-built pedal. They feel amazing. This relief stamped into the metal on top. When you first unpack them, everything feels solid. I said on the tone burst that it might not be the very, very, very best idea to have the 9-volt input directly on the PCB, on the circuit board. It looks like this is what has been done, just a hole in the chassis and you're plugging directly into it. But then again, kick it. I mean, this isn't a big issue, but it's always nice to actually have that, I was going to say welded or mounted onto the chassis somehow. The knobs, everything feels super, super solid. This roll bar here is very nice because you're not going to step on your EQ. Flux 5 with the EQ section is most certainly one of the highest recommended pedals for your sound, I would say, because it's not a tube screamer, it's not a plexi type pedal, it's not an anything, it's a Mesa sound that is a rhythm sound, a lead sound, the tiniest bit of fizzle if you wanted it on your open chords. It can cover a myriad of applications. And yes, it clocks in at about 350 euro. That's not a cheap pedal, but it absolutely delivers for the price. I have to say that nothing else can do what this does as well as it does it. And they're freaking cool blue, which matches the nice yellow pants. Come on, come on. One last time, D'Addario. And I'm out. See you, homies.